meeting to order, and we have 4 members present.
Finance, October 6th, 2021.
I'll need approval of the meeting minutes for September 1st, our regular committee meeting. I have a motion. Member Lehman makes the motion and a second by, y'all are gonna have to raise your hands a lot tonight, so.
Okay.
By Member Wilrab. Does anybody have any questions or changes to those meeting minutes? Seeing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion passes. Ms. Taylor, do we have any appearances by the members of the public or county employees?
Chairman Metzger, we do not.
Very good. We'll move on to departmental matters. For A, Marcia Thompson, Director. She has no items to present, but she does have monthly reports, so we would be happy to hear from you, Ms. Thompson.
Everything's going really well. We've had a lot of adoptions and transfers this week, so it's been a good busy week. So nothing to report. We're still moving along. Repairs going and things like that, so we're glad that that's underway and we're ready for fall.
Very good. Any questions, comments from board members? No, well, we'll hear from you a little bit later too, so thank you so very much. We have 4B, Michelle Anderson, our county auditor, and she has B1A, single audit report for the fiscal year ending December 31st, 2020, and it's a report on federal awards that's on page 10 through 23 of our packet. May I have a motion to put that on the floor? Member Lehman, and a second by Member Erickson. Thank you, Ms. Anderson, for being here, and please enlighten us.
Okay, so as you may remember from the June meeting, the federal piece was on hold because the federal government graciously gave us $700,000 but didn't put out any parameters on how to spend it. So the single audit was put on hold. We finalized the CAFR, it was filed everywhere, we were legal with all entities, and this was on hold. And so we finally got guidance from the Fed, Clifton, Larson Allen did, I did not, Clifton did, on how to handle the money from the nursing home. And so this report is basically the same we get every year. We're just getting it later because of the feds. The long and short of it is that there were no findings, which is the good thing. The main pages of interest are 6, 7, and 8, in my opinion. This is the schedule of expenditures of federal awards, the CFA. The health.
Can I interrupt for just a second? That'd be pages 17, 18, and 19 of our packet.
Sorry, it's the little writing.
It's okay, thank you.
Sure. This is something that the health department, so Ms. Dreyer still assisted this year, and I'm hoping she's going back multiple years, but that's another topic. This is what the health department and I prepare. We give it to the outside auditors. We provide all of this information. They go through and they select what are major programs. And so they do all of the audit testing, and they have to have a certain percent of coverage of the audit to get it tested. The one that changed is on the final page of what Ms. Metzger just told you of the COVID-19, the State CARES Pandemic-Related Stability Payments Program. We put in $85,260. We originally started out at $613 So the difference of $638,353 are the provider relief funds that were paid to the nursing home, and the feds have advised us to put it on the 2021 CFA. So you will see that money come in next year. So we are legal, we follow the Fed, and it is on there. So just because I find this interesting, and I didn't know if you guys would, for better or worse, it's kind of divided, county and health department. So the county portion was about 2.6 million after you take out the roughly 600,000 that flows through to Showbus. And the health department portion was 2.4 million. So over 5.1 million remained here on the main campus for the county to assist and provide services to the taxpayers, via grants. So all that money was here in programs like Veterans Court, vaccination clinics. I will also say, I forgot to look up, maybe Ms. Dreyer can help me, but this year we had a change and we no longer put the WIC coupons on. That will now go on the state's CFA, and I think it's usually 900,000. It's always a major program. That is off this year, so that does make it look a little lower than it has in the past. So if you kind of keep flowing through my page 10, there is a note 5 that says non-monetary assistance. And I'm just spending a few minutes on this because typically we have a 225-page CAFR and then this. And so by the time we get to this, we're like, let's move on. So I just thought, my 14 years here, I don't think we've ever actually talked about it. So non-monetary assistance, we get food, lantern food. Think of what schools would get. We get it at the juvenile detention center. We qualify for that. And the health department receives immunizations. And then note 6, the 1.4 million. Kathy Beck, who I believe is still interim administrator, I don't know, at EMA. I'm not good at knowing if we're directors or administrators. She kept immaculate records of every time we got a mask or a glove or a hand sanitizer. I cannot even imagine how many hours she spent. She has weekly pricing on all of these items. So if we got it, because as you know, prices and availability were just going crazy last year on PPE. So we got 1.4 million. A lot of it was donated out to fire departments and schools, but that is what the county received, and we did have to put that in. And then page 11 is where it says we've been good little boys and girls. The CAFR is the financial statements. So basically, if we'd had a finding on the CAFR, it would get reported in here, and everybody who gave us grant money would see that and be notified that we did not comply, which we did, but I'm just saying that's the importance of the financial reporting, is because it does flow through to here. Federal awards, we again had no findings, and it just says that our only program was our COVID corona relief money. Previous years it was the WIC coupons, which was an easy test. I think they really missed that when DPH changed it, but that is basically that. And then I have one more thing, and I'm sorry. You guys can kind of pass.
Thank you.
I think this falls under the category of, I don't know, you guys even know I do it. We have to get an audit report for our cipher. So this report that we just went over is the schedule of federal awards. This is for the state, and they implemented it maybe 6 years ago, Kathy? Do you remember? Yeah, 5 or 6 probably. And so that's what this is. And so basically, if you take the double-sided, these are all of the county grants. If we take state or federal money in any way, it has to be on here. And so the first column is obviously state, the second is federal, and as you know, it would tie to the CFA on the other schedule. The $638,000 for the corona money that the nursing home received is in other. And then as far as other goes for expenditures, it would be any required match, or in the instance of like child support enforcement, the grant doesn't cover 100%, so the portion that is not covered by the grant is in other. And so that's what other represents. So basically, this is all of our grants, all the money. It says the federal source or state source and how many dollars we received.
So this is really a summary of all of our grants, is what you're telling us.
Correct. And I think we started doing it 6 years ago, and then I think it's been about 5 years that the outside auditors have had to give us an opinion over it. And then if you drill into these, Ms. Dryer can attest, every line is accounted for under each category. So if you drill into all our kids' early childhood, that 85,000, it's broken out between salaries, fringe benefits, supplies, nursing supplies, contract, professional consultant. I mean, anything we could have used on that grant is delineated down to the penny. So it is all behind the scenes. But it is time consuming to prepare both of these to give to our outside auditors for me, and I'm gonna say Ms. Dryer because she's always been the one that's prepared it, although I'm feeling I'm losing that next year, but it is time consuming. That's I imagine that's on our job description as all other duties as assigned, but nobody knows we do. So I just thought I would put that out there.
Does anybody have any questions or comments for Ms. Anderson? Ms. Lehman?
Yeah, so when you mentioned that you've got the breakdown on how the grants are used, where does that live or how would one access that? Not saying that I want to look anything up, but I was just curious.
We file it on the state grant portal, and so it is on there, and then each granting agency goes in, and like right now, since I've hit submit and certify, everything is yellow. And then let's say Department of Public Health, they're usually one of the first ones to actually go in and do their job. Then once they clear it, it goes green. And if there's questions, they have a mechanism to send me a message that says, we think we sent you 100,000, you say you got 105, what are we missing? You know, what's the difference? And I mean, if you look MSP dollars around here, I mean, even things that I would say are not actually grants, they're more formula driven, those are on here as well, so.
And so that's not something that's like accessible to a layperson, it would be going through your office for.
I believe, I don't think the state's turned that, made it public, but since I'm the one that submits it, I've never tried to look for it on the other end.
Sure thing. Alright, thank
But I do know it must be somewhere public because I know after we did it, people, because with our fiscal year end, they started, its fiscal year ends beginning 12/1, whatever year and forward. So we were the first county because there's only a couple counties that are 12/31, most are 11/30. And so as soon as we did it, everybody started calling like, how did you know what to do? And so.
Cool, thank you.
Any other comments?
And I do have one more, I'm sorry. I know I'm the bad girl and we
No, that's okay. I would just like to say thank you. It is nice to get a breakdown because I agree, I think what we have done in the past is kind of rushed through this, and I'm not sure that was the wisest thing to do. So future, I know it's a little exhausting sometimes as a board member but this is good.
Well, I will tell you, these are actually prepared and printed by our outside auditor. I just presented because I didn't want to make her drive over, considering I used to do these when I worked in public accounting, and so it really didn't make sense to make her drive over to explain it when I was more than capable. I consulted with administration and we decided I could handle it.
However, you helped prepare for
Right,
this, so I
correct.
think we need to acknowledge the efforts that were made by you as well as Ms. Dryer. And I mean, I just noticed one thing that was on here, that you had 4 million in motor fuel tax.
Right.
You know, and so we wouldn't necessarily consider that a grant, but it is money that flows through, so.
Trust me, we fought and fought and fought for like 3 years, and now we're just giving up the fight, because I'm like, if they didn't budge in 3 years, they ain't gonna budge today, so.
So anyway, I'm just, I appreciate this, so I
No
wanted to say thank you. So I'm sorry I interrupted
Sorry,
you.
no,
and
this is
you-
just follow-up from Ms. Woolrab. In August, I think you asked me about the American Planning Funds, the Fund 163. It will, when I present the next quarterlies, that just ended like last week on Thursday. It will be reported through the general fund. It's one of like 10 or 12 funds that get combined. I've consulted with Ms. Dryer, and they are going to give you the report of what is expended. Since they're the ones doing it, I would literally just be printing out an expense report, which I'm not gonna add value to, so they can add value to theirs and get that to you, so. I just wanted to follow up, I promised you I would look into it, so.
All right, anything else for Ms. Anderson?
I'm sorry, I took up enough time for 3 months,
No,
but.
that's okay. No, we appreciate it, and I think we'll have more conversation on the budget, right? So.
Okay.
Very good, thank you. Moving on, we'll go to.
I need a vote on that.
Oh, gosh, yes, thank you very much. May I have, all in favor of accepting the, single audit report, from Ms. Anderson, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Unanimous, pass. Very good, thank you, Ms. Morlock, for keeping us, in line. We're moving on to 4C1. A, and that is Becky McNeil, treasurer, and that is request approval of resolution to authorize county board chair to execute deeds of covenants or assignments. And we have that is found on page 24 through 28. And may I have a motion to put this on the floor? Motion by member Erickson and a second by Ms. Woolrab. And Ms. McNeil, please.
Okay, you have 4 pieces of property that through the trustee's office, they acquired bids and are ready to convey those properties to the new owners if those bids are accepted. So.
Any questions? Seeing none, all in favor of accepting the resolutions to authorize the execution of deeds, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign, motion passes.
I didn't spend much time on that because you guys have seen it before many times.
Yes.
So, and I know time is of essence.
And so we're moving on to C1B, and that's accept and replace and place on file the county treasurer's monthly financial reports. And those are being distributed. May I have a motion to accept these, please? Member Lehman, and a second by member Woolrab. And I did not get that.
Hang on. I didn't make a ton of copies. Here you
I
go,
have
sir.
copies if you need them, Shirley.
There's more. There's one more.
Do you need one? You have one? Okay. Very good, thank you. And, Ms. McNeil.
Okay, so the first report is the summary of tax revenue, and I'm not gonna go through every line, but I mean, you can see that we are doing very well here in fiscal year 21, despite everything that you've heard. Right now, year-to-date comparison, we're up by $2 million compared to where we were back in 2021. And, you know, during 2021, we did take a hit, but it wasn't that big of a hit. Overall, when looking at the budget, we'd like to be at about 7.79 or 7 million on our revenue, and we are at 9.6 million. So, compared to budget, we are up 1.9 million. Here during the month of October, I suspect that we will reach that budgeted number that we were looking for in revenue. So basically what we get in November and December is going to be a bonus. Any questions? Property tax revenue, obviously is showing on here, 95.3% is in. We're going to be wrapping that up in the next 30 days. Pulling in the rest of that revenue, tax sales November the 16th. And final distribution hopefully will occur before the end of November. So, any questions? Michelle was earlier mentioned the motor fuel tax. I mean, you can see here in 2021 what the motor fuel tax has come in at. The renewal fund, that additional action that the governor of the state of Illinois took, is being passed along to the county. Well over $2 million at this point in time, just in that alone. The next report is the investment report, And I wish I had more to tell you, except for when I saw that JP Morgan Chase was giving us 0.05, I was so excited. I mean, it's really a zero rate environment right now. It's very, very difficult. The total cash and investments on hand is $104,320,000. The largest chunk of that is the ARPA funds in 0163, 15,781 at the end of September. Any questions or concerns? And then we move on into the self-insured health plan. The county's year-to-date expenses are $4,471,000 compared to $4,344,000. So here in 2021, we have not had a lot of shift. Everything seems to be going in the same direction as 2020. The expenses are up very, very slightly, $126,000. Okay. And then the final report that I have for you is on the nursing home. And during the month of August, the board, or I guess it was in September, the board adopted a resolution to allow a transfer to the nursing home fund for some reimbursements due to ARPA. And that is not reflected in here. You'll see that on the next report because this report runs through the end of August. If you have any questions, you can let me know.
And that amount was around $1 million, wasn't it? 1.5 million, okay.
Well, what we actually transferred at that time was more in the range of $700,000 to $800,000.
Okay.
Yeah, we'll gradually be transferring as expenses are incurred.
Okay.
Mm-hmm. And earlier you had asked about one of the reports as far as the grants. You know, how would you find out how those grants were spent? You'd reach out to the departments. The departments in this county, they amaze me. They have worked so hard and they have really put it out there. Child advocacy is one of them. Molly has gotten hundreds of thousands of dollars in grants to help the children of Mclean County and in the multi-county area. So reach out to those departments. I'm sure they would be thrilled to have the opportunity to talk about bringing that money into Mclean County and what they do to help.
Thank you so much, I appreciate the information.
All right, any other questions? I can tell you, the health committee met Monday, and good news about the nursing home, and that is that we are seeing an increase in hiring of getting away from our contract employees and hiring CNAs that are employed by McLean County, and the census significantly higher. I think it showed on the report 80, but actually 86 as of Monday. And you know that our break even is 100. So we are not there, but we are certainly moving in the right direction. And Ms. Taylor and I have discussed, and we're going to reach out, and we're going to have a meeting specifically to talk about the nursing home with Susan Schaefer, the chair of the health committee, and just talk about where it's going. And the Blue Ribbon panel has continued to meet and continues to tell us to increase census and decrease the contract employees that we have, because the cost is significantly higher than having employees, and that is taking place. It's a very slow turning ship. I'll just leave it there. Are there any questions? Yes, Ms. Millett.
Doesn't it the financial health also turn on the mixture of patients, not just the shared census numbers, but whether they're self-pay or Medicare or Medicaid.
And actually, the most recent ones have been Medicare, which, excellent observation or discussion. Yes, it does matter, because if we are getting Medicare and private pay, it is certainly more financially beneficial to the nursing home.
Has any progress been made with, I guess, Carl on getting their network or referral piece that they have to help us
I'm not
improve
sure where that stands. I'm sorry, I don't know that.
I can address that.
Please do.
So, we discussed that at our last Blue Ribbon panel meeting, and, to be part of the ACO, you have to have a minimum star rating, and so the first step would be to increase our star rating, which we are working on. I can tell you, they recently had a survey. It has not been released yet on the state website, but there were no findings.
So that will help us.
Yeah.
Yes.
I would also add on my financial report, just what you described, that is exactly what we saw during the month of August. And I mean, the August revenue was higher, than any other month here in 2021. Their private pay and, their all of their revenue sources were up. I would say that their Medicare was up quite a bit, and their private pay. If you look at their private pay, it was $225,000 accrued. Total accrual was $519,000. And it's been quite a while since the nursing home has reported numbers in at that level, so it was good to see.
Excellent, thank you so much. We'll talk later, I'm sure, so. Oh, I'm so sorry, Member Erickson?
Did you say Member Schaefer was gonna come and address this committee?
No,
No, she's not.
no, we are going to have a meeting with Ms. Taylor. She and I are going to have a discussion. And then I can certainly, or Ms. Taylor can provide a report to the outcome of that meeting.
Could I get the recommendation of the Blue Ribbon panel? I haven't looked at them in a few years, so if I could see those, I'd like to see them.
Certainly.
Yes.
Might I also request the same information that Mr. Erickson will be getting?
Absolutely.
Thank you so much.
And you can do that for them, Ms. Taylor.
I can send it out to the whole committee.
Are there any minutes of any kind of their meeting?
I'm not sure if, are there minutes, I don't think there are minutes taken of those meetings, are there?
No. Those minutes are not published, and we don't keep minutes on those meetings.
I'm not one that takes them, no.
And, they meet quarterly. And as a board member, that is on our monthly meeting, calendar, is that correct?
No, they would be considered an advisory board to the nursing home administrator. And so, we have not functioned with that group as a formal meeting. If there is intent for membership to become more involved with that committee, I can certainly reach out to, Chairman McIntyre as well as the nursing home interim administrator. So we could start with sharing the recommendations of the panel as well as the latest updates to those recommendations. And we could go from there if that would be the will of the committee.
Is that good?
As a follow-up, is it appropriate for folks to join in on those meetings and to view? Are they open to the public and to the county team? Or is that also just a closed meeting?
So that would be a question for our parliamentarian.
So I'm not really involved with the Blue Ribbon Committee right now. So unfortunately, I don't know how they're set up or when they meet, but I can certainly look into that for you.
Okay, thank you.
I think initially we attended I know I did initially, but I haven't, and those were the initial meetings.
So that is one of those hybrid groups that is not a board committee, but more of an advisory group for a special function. And so that is why I asked for assistance from our parliamentarian, not to put her in the hot seat, but to see where that fell as far as Alma is concerned. So I know in the beginning, they had public involved with those sessions, and they met on a regular basis to complete tours of the facility as well as have working sessions on those recommendations. It's been a more passive group in recent years as we have looked to meet some of those milestones and goals with the recommendations. I can tell you that the majority of the recommendations have been met, other than the ones that are ongoing with increasing census and reducing agency reliance. But then there are also recommendations regarding the infrastructure and cosmetics of the building. And we have not reached all of those goals, mainly because of monetary constraints.
I think there were also some marketing ones that we haven't done.
So one of the main marketing goals was to hire a marketing employee or a nurse liaison to have that connection and liaison with the hospitals, and we do have that position.
Additional questions? Thank you very much. We're gonna move on to.
I need to take a vote on that,
Oh,
please.
gosh, yes, we need to vote, thank you. All in favor of accepting the county treasurer monthly financial report, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign, it is unanimous, pass that motion. We are now moving on to 4B, Kathy Michael, County Clerk. I am not seeing anything for action, and I know she has her monthly reports here. Does anybody have any questions or comments? The only thing I would like to say is I think we've had an increase in your recording of deeds and those kinds of things, so obviously that's been keeping everybody on their toes, so thank that team, please, because I know.
Yeah, business has not slacked off.
Not at all,
In that
we're
regard,
well
so-
aware of the real estate stuff that's going on, and they're, I just have heard from attorneys that are working with that in title companies that your promptness is appreciated.
Pass that along, thank you.
Okay, thank you. We are now moving on to 4E, 1A, and that is our interim county administrator, Cassie Taylor. Request approval of an ordinance amending the designation and operation criteria for the normal, Bloomington Normal Enterprise Zone, and that's found on page 37 through 50. And we have a motion to put that on the floor. We have a motion by member Woolrab and a second by member Lehman. And it looks like we have Mr. Holden is here also. Yes.
Back again.
Good.
So this was actually supposed to accompany the IGA that was already approved. the state requires that you amend the designated ordinance along with the IGA. So you guys are the first ones to approve the IGA. It's been through all other taxing bodies successfully. So now we're back to get the designated ordinance, and then we will apply and should be ready to roll. So it's starting and finishing with you guys.
So we'll be the first to approve it then, if we approve it, right?
Well, actually, you were the first to approve the IGA, and then everybody else approved both of them.
Oh, they
And now
approved
we're
both
back
of
for the
them.
ordinance.
So we're the last.
Yeah.
Yeah, first and last. Should have been in the first packet.
Okay, that's all right. We can, does anybody have any questions for, Mr. Holden? Yes.
First of all, I think there was a Scrivener's error on page 39 under A2. I think it says here, the abatement period means the period, I think it means which the project is entitled to receive rather than with the project. So it's just that, but I just want a clarification also that this does include retail businesses, is that correct?
Yes, that's a different incentive for retail. Retail is only 3 years, where non-retail is 5.
Because it was a little, somehow disjointed in the way it was set up, but it's.
Any other concerns or questions? Seeing none, all in favor of approving the ordinance amending the designation and operation criteria of the Bloomington Normal Enterprise Zone, say aye. Opposed, same sign. Motion passes unanimously. Thank you very much for your time. E1B, and that is request approval of a resolution establishing the rates for the health life insurance coverage, and that's on page 51 to 54. May I have a motion to put that on the floor? Yes, Member Woolrab makes a motion and Member Lehman has second. And Ms. Taylor,
Thank you
or
so much.
whoever is,
I'll take this. So, as we have outlined in the memo, there will be no increase to employees for the next fiscal year for our rates, which is great news for all involved. We do have some additional services that we're including a Chubb insurance program that will allow employees to get long-term care insurance if they so choose. It's a voluntary program, it's not mandatory. And in addition, we offer the other incentives in the package for our benefits, including the identity theft coverage, as well as our dental and eye, and all of the others will stay static.
Ms. Woolrab, question?
So it's nice that we have a 0% increase, and it's good to see that. Question about though, I think through the budget, if I'm not mistaken, in many departments, maybe all of them, I think I saw an 8% increase to under health for employees. So I was kind of wondering, why that wouldn't be like dental insurance increase or vision or something, but.
That's the employer.
The employer portion, so there's no increase for the employees, but there is an increase for the county.
Exactly, but where is that, what is that stemming from if there's a 0% increase to the health insurance?
0% health increase to the employee portion. There is an increase in the rates, the overall rates.
So basically what you're saying is the county is taking the hit for the additional
Correct.
costs to health insurance of approximately 8%.
Less than that, wasn't it?
No, it was about 8%.
There's no, so is there no increase to the basic expected cost of the insurance through the year?
To the employee.
There is a cost of the insurance, but the employee will not see that increase.
Not seeing the increase.
Yes.
All right. Any other questions or concerns or clarification? All right.
So, because I think that what I looked at was the COBRA rate, like on page 53 on the bottom of page 53, which I would think would be reflective. Are you not raising the COBRA rate either? Because I guess I assumed that was the full, premium equivalent. Plus some.
All rates remained at the 2021.
I think what Member Warab, if I'm not mistaken, COBRA usually is a cost that to the employee leaving that is not subsidized by the organization. So it's quite, I think the question is, if we are seeing an increase, then wouldn't COBRA have seen a small increase or a percent increase because of the increase, the overall increase to the organization? So
Right, that's exactly right.
by not doing it, then we are picking up
portion.
a portion of the COBRA, which we're not expected to do as by law.
And I don't think they've ever, my knowledge, done that.
So we can investigate that for you and have an answer for you at stand up if you like. I believe our rates as noted in this plan are accurate. Part of this, when you're a self-funded health insurance program, the amount that is reflected to the employees does not necessarily have to be the same as the cost that we're seeing from Blue Cross Blue Shield. And we'll investigate this, there might be an adjustment to number 5 on that with the COBRA. But the intent was to not change the rates for the employees, even though there would be an increase in the amount that we are budgeting for in our self-funded insurance plan, if that makes sense, but we will double
It
check
does make
those.
sense. I would agree with Ms. Woolrab. I would like to at least have this looked at. And if there are changes, then I think a stand-up, we could do that at stand-up, I would think, pretty easily, couldn't we?
I think so.
So if there is
If we identify any errors in this, we could bring it to stand.
yeah, if there are changes that are necessary, then I think we can, so we will not vote on this at this point. We will look at this at stand-up potentially. We'll have to vote on it at stand-up whether it changes or not, I think. Is that, or do we go ahead and vote on it and then make changes?
Well, there's just an error in the reporting.
I don't know.
So I think you could handle it a number of ways, and again, I turn to our parliamentarian, if it pleases the committee, you could vote on it here, or you could table it, or
Either way, when the stand-up agenda gets made, depending on what you decide today, you can make it as an action item to change if there's necessary changes, or you can reconsider on that date. But that would take a motion to stop the conversation here.
I would like to go ahead, if it would be all right, to approve it as it is. If there are changes necessary, then bring it to stand up. And then we can have a conversation and a motion at stand up. That way, if there are no changes, if it comes, the point is that there are no changes and we are ready to go.
Correct.
Does that seem appropriate? Okay, very good. So all in favor of accepting the resolution establishing the health and life insurance coverage rates, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Very good, passes unanimously. Moving on to E1C, request approval of emergency appropriation amending Mclean County fiscal year 2021 combined annual appropriation budget ordinance for American Rescue Plan Fund 0163, and that's found on page 55 and 56. May I have a motion, please? And member Wolrab and member Erickson made the second. And please proceed.
Thank you. So last month, we brought forth an action item through information in the health committee and then presented that to finance regarding vaccination incentives for healthcare professionals in the nursing home. Since that time, and in several months of deliberation on how to handle this similar act with the rest of our employees, we have budgeted and present to you this plan to incentivize all employees of Mclean County in a similar fashion, so that in accordance with attempting to recognize the efforts of our staff who have worked through COVID and also taken it upon themselves to keep themselves, their families, and their coworkers healthy. We have provided this through the American Rescue Plan Fund to allow for funds to be available for those who have been vaccinated. This is not a mandate. This is not in any way a judgment of those who have decided against for religious purposes or for their own healthcare concerns. And we have accommodations for those individuals as well. But that is the action item that we present to you tonight.
That's questions.
Member Wolrab.
So we've already decided to do this for the nursing home staff.
Correct.
And has that already happened then?
Yes, that list has been made and those individuals will be receiving their checks this week if they haven't already. I'm not sure if that check line has gone out.
Can I finish? Did you see a substantial uptick in the number of people that were vaccinated resulting from this?
Yes, so I'm not sure of the percentage, but we after this was announced, the health department completed a clinic at the nursing home and we increased by 12 staff. So almost 10% increase, I guess, if you look at 100 staff.
Right, member Lehman.
My question was merely gonna be a follow-up to see what the success rate has been thus far. So, thank you.
I guess I'll say that, I'm really struggling with this. I mean, there is a free vaccination available for people to save their lives of their family, and possibly their neighbors. And now we're being asked to incentivize them by $1,000 to get that. And it's blowing my mind that we're having to do this, or feeling like we have to do it. And I'm really struggling. And I completely understand why we want to do it. I'm 110% behind, 200% behind people being vaccinated. And I'm having a hard time with this.
One of the considerations that we deliberated was also how do you recognize the staff that have worked through the pandemic and freely vaccinated themselves for that effort to keep themselves safe. And so in our deliberations, there were many factors that we considered that we did not feel could fairly capture the work that was completed. So how do you measure someone who is a law enforcement officer on the streets compared to someone who's in an office that was on lockdown for 6 months? And how do you equitably and fairly design an incentive for that nature? And so with this, it seemed that it was, granted, it's tied to the vaccination itself, but it also was a way that we felt we could fairly and equitably respond to our employees, and so that's how we designed it. So it's almost patching two programs for incentive, but it is very easy to say, are you vaccinated or not vaccinated?
So
As
how does
opposed
that
to,
affect the people who are asking for accommodation?
so for those that have made accommodations for health concerns or for religious practices, we have a form that has been provided, and it is has been provided through SHRM, I believe. And so that is what we're using. So it's a little more than just saying that you have a religious preference that would deny you to have it. It's not for a choice. It would be a form that you fill out and have a minister or a leader in your community, religious community, sign off on it.
So people who go through that, are they eligible for this?
They are eligible.
I can't support that. I mean, if the point is to get people vaccinated, I can't support that. What good does it do? You know, because I've heard many times that people are using those exemptions to sidestep the requirement to get vaccinated, and then we're gonna give them $1,000 so they can sidestep that requirement. And so I cannot support this.
We addressed that with our legal team, and the answer that we received in response to that was that it would be discrimination to not include them in this incentive.
I understand.
Member Lehman?
For anyone who is seeking the exemption, is there any kind of standardized testing that is required for all county employees?
Not for all county employees, for those in the healthcare or the OSHA designated health care clinics, then they are required to test weekly.
But this is for all county
This
employees,
is
right?
for all county employees.
Any other questions? Okay. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed?
Aye.
Aye.
3 against, 1 in favor. Motion does not pass. All right. Moving on, so we're E1D, request approval of fiscal year 2021 recommended budget for County Treasurer Department 0004, including D1, General Fund, and Financial Management Program, D2, Collection Automation Fund, and Financial Management Program. And those are found on pages 57 through 60. And so, may I have a motion? Member Lehman makes the motion, and I have a second by Member Erickson. And so this is our treasurer's.
Yes, and I have a PowerPoint presentation to review. So the Mclean County Treasurer is responsible for overseeing the collection and distribution of over $364 million to nearly 200 taxing bodies. The revenues for this budget, the overall revenues decreased by 25%. Revenues from interest on investments decreased 85% from 2021 as interest rates continue to be exceptionally low. We have been receiving that report from the treasurer the last few months, so that should be no surprise. In addition, interest on certificates of deposit decreased 38%. So as you can see in the pie graph, you've got a breakdown on those figures. Expenses, the overall expenses increased 8%. Contract services increased 113% due to, in part, courier costs that have increased in gas and personnel increases. There are also increased expenses for lockbox processing of tax payments due to COVID-19 and historically low interest rates and earning credits. Equipment rental increased 20%. And that increase is a reflective of historical expenses. And there is a pie chart as well that shows the breakdown. 80% of the expenses in the treasurer's office are from salary expenses. Services make up 10%, as do supplies. And that's it.
Questions? Concerns? Observations? Verlaine.
Thank you. I noticed an increase in the letterhead and the printed forms, and this is not necessarily having so much to do with the budget, but as with the previous conversation. I thought I recalled as a county we were trying to move more towards our forms being online and automated. So it's more so a clarification for my understanding. Are we trying to do a lot of our forms to be more so online versus paper? Thank you.
So, the introduction of that PowerPoint reference that we collect taxes.
Mhm.
We do far more than just collect property taxes. I'm not sure who wrote that line, but I would appreciate if they'd contact me because we do payroll, we do revenue accounting, we do accounts payable. So this printed forms line covers a wide variety of things that cannot just be done online. We have so many things that are out available online, but we have our tax bills themselves. We're required to print them and mail them. We've not gotten to the point yet where we can just click off and start emailing versus printing. So that's the biggest cost. The biggest cost is going to be that. One of the second biggest costs is all of the envelopes that we have, check paper, things like that. So, but the biggest one in there is the preparation of the bill itself.
Thank you for the clarification. What would be your pie in the sky goal to be able to move towards more automation with like a kind of click and go with some of the tax?
Well, we're limited on what we can do by the property tax code. So much of what we are I actually think we already have the pie in the sky. We already have, the cherry on top with our property tax system. We have DevNet. We share that platform with the county clerk and the county assessor's office. That platform is online. Any taxpayer can get online and find absolutely everything they want to know about their property, and that website will take them to a variety of other places where they can continue to their research. So our online platform is widely used, has cut down on a number of the personal contact that we have to have with taxpayers, title companies, mortgage companies, etc. So we really do leverage technology to do what we do, but we can't unfortunately cannot eliminate releasing tax bills. I would love for the General Assembly to make some modifications to allow us to be more automated. One of the notices we're required to do, which we're going to release in the next few weeks, is a certified mailing that we have to do on all delinquent property taxes prior to publication, prior to tax sale. And that mailing, being a certified mailing that's going to go out to over 1,000 parcels, you can see where the cost of that is gonna be. And clearly, it's one of our largest mailing expenses besides sending out the tax bills themselves.
Okay. Understand. Glad to know that we're already pie in the sky with our technology though. We just
We
need
really,
the-
we really are. I know that, I meet with Craig Nelson periodically and we talk about where we're going, and so that we have the right equipment. And that's also, there's some lines in here which reflect that, just being able to have the right equipment to be able to stay automated and moving along and doing what we do.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Any other questions? Seeing none, we need to vote on the treasurer's fiscal year budget. All in favor of accepting this, say aye.
Aye.
And opposed, same sign. Passes, very good. Moving on to E1E. And that is request approval for fiscal year 2021 recommended budget for Veterans Assistance Communication Fund, Veterans Assistance Department, and Veterans Assistance Program, and that's down on page 61 and 62. And please proceed.
Thank you, we're joined by Jerry Vogler as well, so. The Veterans Assistance Department provides assistance to veterans and their families in obtaining, filing, and completing forms for claims to state and federal agencies. I'm not gonna read that whole slide to you, but in addition, they provide assistance to veterans and their families to obtain copies of active duty records, also referred to as the DD-214s. They provide veterans and their families with information and linkage to human service resources and provide temporary emergency assistance to veterans when needed for rent or mortgage payments, utility payments, and transportation. Overall, the budget increased by 1%.
Alright. Does anybody have any questions or observations, comments related to our Veterans Assistance Program? Linda Laura.
Thank you. So the budget, the overall budget is increasing by, sorry, how much?
1%.
1%. But I'm wondering if the actual, some of the help that we provide for folks is informational and there's no
Monetary value of time,
you know,
sure.
there's the labor and cost of personnel, but on the emergency assistance side, is it, help me understand why the costs under that don't increase? That $40,000, I'm assuming is that money, is that correct? Under 779.002, and that isn't increasing at all?
I guess I see the actual amount was $4,705 last year was what was spent?
Yeah.
Yeah, if I could go back about 5 years ago when things were pre-COVID-19, we had actually seen a reduction in the number of veterans in the county. The county was, as a whole, employment-wise, was doing well. At that time, we were asking for about 60, maybe 65,000 a year, and we were using probably well over 40,000. In fact, we had one occasion about 10 years ago in which we actually had to come back and get more money in December. That's all changed now, partly because of the reduction in the number of veterans. We've gone from about 12,000 veterans to less than 10. But more importantly, the last 18 months, I've never seen anything like this in the almost 18 years I've been around. In that you would think with hard times, people losing their jobs, in some cases losing health insurance and all kinds of things that go along with COVID-19, you would think they'd be standing around the corner in line waiting to get help here. I've talked to people who run food pantries. I've talked to other counterparts in the other 55 counties in the state of Illinois out of 102 that have VAC offices, and we're all scratching our head, but we've kind of come to the same conclusion, and that is because of all the stimulus packages the bans on evictions, the bans on disconnections on utilities and so forth, people aren't coming in for assistance. Now, it's starting to change because those rules are beginning to change. I really thought they'd been changed a long time ago, but they keep it extending it. I'm beginning to see a few people coming in at this point that have $700 water bills, $800 utility bills. And my question is, what did they do with the stimulus money? Because they were getting mixed messages from our government who were dishing out the stimulus money. Go out and spend this because it's good for the economy. And I suspect they must have gone out and bought big screen TVs or something because they weren't paying utility bills. Our policy is that if a person comes in today with a $700 water bill, we only look at the current month's bill usage. Unless they've got a really, really good story about why that bill got so large. Like for instance, they had a water main break and they didn't know they were losing all that water, we might consider a different kind of assistance. We have actually gone in the last 10 or 12 years from about 60,000 in that budget account down to 40. My feeling is that we were gonna actually reduce it below that. When we came before the finance committee last year, they said, just leave it alone. You don't know what this is really gonna do in the longer term. I really think that with the closure down of the bans on the utility bill not being paid and all those sort of things, we're gonna see a big jump in the number of people coming in for request of assistance. And a lot of that depends on what the governor does with the evictions. If the government comes in and said, we'll pay your back bills for you, don't worry about it, landowners and tenant or landlords, we're gonna take care of that for the people who haven't been paying their rent and so forth. That could change things, but eventually it's gonna come back. And 40,000 is probably reasonable with the lower number of veterans that we got in the county compared to what it was 10, 12 years ago. I don't know, does that answer your questions? It's one of those deals where everybody's having financial troubles, but nobody's coming in for financial assistance. The food banks here we're down probably 75% in the food banks. Only about 25% of the people that used to come in are coming in now. I know the Midwest Food Bank itself out here on Northtown Road, they're having a lot of perishable items spoil because they can't give them out because the agencies, they're not getting any use at the other end, and their perishable foods are, their storage areas are all filled up too. So it's kind of an oddball situation to be in, but I think it's gonna begin to turn the tide here this year. However, I'll be honest with you, last year I felt the same thing. Then the additional stimulus packages and extension of the eviction bans and all that sort of thing changed all that. So a lot of it depends on what the state and the federal government does with those outreach financial assistance programs. I would have been disappointed if somebody had
Additional questions?
because we'll be lucky to have probably, even with the increase, we'll be lucky probably out of this year's budget in that line item, we probably won't hit 10,000.
Is there a cap per?
I'm sorry?
Is there a cap per veteran
A
on
cap?
emergency assistance? A cap per?
Yeah, we do have a cap. State law says you can't put a cap on the number of times that they can come in, but you can put a cap like on an annual basis of how much assistance, the dollar amount. And we have what we call rolling 12, which means that we look back for 12 months, and if they're above the cap, we're gonna approach it, then we would deny that. We'd give them a denial letter and refer them over to the township for assistance. And we kind of have an agreement with Debbie Skilbred over there that if she's got people that come in to apply for general assistance, and there's a question on there, are you a vet or is there a vet in the household? They go, we're not gonna do anything until see the guy over at the VAC, which then allows us to have hands-on access, because most veterans, and I'm one, we don't keep track of a lot of the stuff that is available out there to help us. And the hardest thing for being in this industry is how do you get veterans to recognize and be aware? I don't know if you're aware, I actually publish a column in the Pantograph every Monday called the Veterans Corner. And that's what the purpose of that was. It only took us about 10 years to get the Pantograph tool to allow us to do that, but it's been very beneficial because it stirs up, wow, that sounds like it might apply to me. And then they'll come in and see us and we'll get pointed in the right direction, or maybe we can help them directly, so.
Okay, thank you.
I guess I'll say this, that if we budget $40,000, and people are coming in and getting, and we wouldn't spend it all, but people are getting denied help because maybe they have a $700 water bill, I guess I would hope by the end of the year we can find a way to spend the $40,000. If it makes if it's legal to do so and it makes some
Well, we have
sense to do
a
so.
new chairman and vice chairman this year, but with all the COVID-19 stuff going on, I expect this one will be probably more aggressive in doing something like that. But we have to be very careful because we don't want to do something today that we're going to have to live with tomorrow when it wouldn't be appropriate. But yeah, we have kind of a policy there that this is the way we handle things. But if the square peg doesn't fit in the round hole right, let's look and see if there's an exception that should be made by doing the right thing instead of simply following a practice that doesn't fit the situation, so.
Very good. Additional questions or observations? All right, seeing none, let's vote on the recommended budget for veterans assistance.
I don't have a motion on that.
Oh, I thought we did, I'm so sorry.
If I missed it, but.
Let's make a motion by member Lehman and second by member Woolrap. I apologize.
No, I'm sorry, maybe I missed it, I apologize.
Don't know, but that's okay, we're moving ahead. All in favor to accepting the budget, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. No, a motion passes. We are now going on to.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much for coming here and thank you for your service. E1F, and that is request approval for fiscal year recommended budget for the Historical Museum, the Museum Department, and their maintenance program. And may I have a motion for that? We have a motion by member Lehman and a second by member Woolrap. And that's found on page 63.
Yes. So the only budgetary concerns for the historical museum in this budget would be the general property tax that is collected as revenue and then the distribution of that collection back to the museum in the amount of $61,766.
Questions?
Where does the lease money show up in the budget that they would pay to the county?
In the facilities management.
Alright. All in favor of accepting the budget for the historical museum, say aye.
Aye.
Say, opposed, same sign, motion passes. We are now moving on to E1G, and that is recommended budget for the general fund for the Bloomington Election Commission and the city election program, and that's page 64. And may we have a motion, please? Member Erickson with the second of member Lehman.
Thank you. So the City of Bloomington Election Commission is formed, Illinois state statute allows for this formation. And in Bloomington, it was established in November of 1914. It has recently celebrated its 100th anniversary. Its overall budget is 2% less than in fiscal year 2021. It again is a really simple budget for us.
Questions, member Lehman?
At least in the ones that I've looked through so far, this is the only one that has a differentiation between department head and county administrator. I was just wondering, along the rest of the budgets that we have looked at and other committees are looking at, they all match up. Why is this one different?
So what line are you looking at?
I'm on page 205 of the rather large packet.
That was an error on my part.
Oh,
I
okay.
originally entered the wrong amount,
Okay,
and so then I had to put the correct amount.
okay, fabulous. Sorry, I switched to paper to look at these parts, so it matches up then on the one that's in our packet?
Mhm.
Okay, groovy then, thank you.
Any additional concerns? Very good, Will.
Are you saying that on the online version, it shows the same, the department head and the county administrator are the same? Cause what I'm looking at are different.
Can I speak up? I would have pulled that from the original budget book papers. That's what I used to put together the packet.
Right, and we realized the error, before the budget books were passed out, but it was online. So we replaced the page in the budget books, but the online did not get changed.
My budget book actually matches what I'm looking at from the packet that was emailed out. Could we just get a clarification on which one is the appropriate budget, the department head or the county administrator?
County administrator.
County admin one, thank you.
So there is a 37% increase in the budget from last year? And the revenue, I'm looking at the revenue.
In revenue. Just a 4% increase in expenses.
Is that the city contributing more to it or?
That's what we will be requesting for the city.
Member Lehman.
So it just, like 2020, 2021, it was pretty static at the 100,000 in the revenue. What called for or what triggered then the increase of the 37,000?
Well, our expenses have increased, but the reimbursement has not.
Okay.
So we thought we would request an additional amount.
So then when we request that amount, is that like a foregone conclusion then, and it's gonna come in, there's not gonna be a pushback in that regard, or?
We request the amount.
Alright.
Their budget cycle is not on the same fiscal year as ours, and so they make determinations on their budget out of cycle of ours. And so they know of our requests. This last year, we requested 100,000 and we did receive that, so we have every belief that we will receive those funds.
Forgive my ignorance on it, when would we know that they have approved, when is their budget cycle?
We haven't received,
April.
is it April?
Okay.
But I think the election commission, they were voting in September on our reimbursement.
Okay, thanks to know, thank you.
Right, so we need to vote on the approval of the recommended budget for the Bloomington Election Commission and the City Elections Program. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Very good, the motion passes. We now are moving to E1H, and that is request approval for fiscal year 2021, a recommended budget for the general fund assessment office, including H1 property assess review supervised program and H2 board of review program. And those are found on page 65 through 67. And I'd like a motion to put that on the floor. It looks like Member Woolrab is making the motion and Member Erickson has a second on that. And we have, good to see you. We have a member of the assessor's office with us,
Connie Clifford,
Connie.
I'm the chief deputy.
Very good. I know Connie, I talked to you many times. Real good to see you, thank you. Not many times, but frequently.
So I have a short presentation as well to just summarize the work. So the overall budget for the Supervisor of Assessments Office, 78% of their budget is comprised of salaries and the work that they do. 15% is in supplies and 7% in services. Their overall budget increased by 5%. There were decreases in lines for office supply and copy machine expenses based on historical trends. Advertising and legal notices was increased by 12% in anticipation of increased volume of assessment changes with township assessors. And schooling and conferences increased 26%, and that allots for registration fees for required continuing education. In their next fund, which is 0001, 0049, 0055 Assessment Board of Review, there was a less than 1% increase to that budget from the previous fiscal year. And I'm sure Connie can answer any other specific questions that you might have.
Any questions? Member Lehman.
So I noticed on the occasional seasonal employees, in previous 2020 and 2021s, those were zeroed out, but we got an increase with 4,000. Just curious if that's anticipated because of all of the wild staffing needs and challenges going on.
That's anticipated because our GIS technician has already told us he's going to be retiring next year. And because it is kind of a specialized position, we have asked administration and they have agreed to let us hire somebody before he retires so that he can get some more, or she can get some more extensive training before our current position expires. So we expect that this year it will go away next year, or for 22, it'll go away in 23.
Great planning and congratulations ahead of time to the person who's retiring.
He's quite excited. We have actually a couple of retirements next year, so it's gonna be a busy time for our office.
Best of luck.
All right, any additional questions? All right, all in favor of approving the recommended budget for the assessment office, the property assessment review and supervised program and the board of review program, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion passes. Moving on, thank you so
Thank you.
much, Connie.
Thank you, Connie.
Yes.
May I ask a general question about many things, that I've seen? There are several places in the budget where there's a use of the fund balances. Sometimes it seems like quite a big chunk of fund balance being used in any particular, and that's not unusual. But just curious as to whether we know, at the end of the day, under the budget, what our cushion will be. What kind of a fund balance we'll have remaining in there, and whether that'll meet the standard that we have set for the funds that we would like to have in case of issues, downturns or COVIDs or whatever.
So we're seeing individually in specific departments, the fund balances, and you're wanting to know, based on those, are we going to meet that fund balance overall? Because we're only seeing small smidgets of those fund balances, and if we combine them all together, will it meet that requirement that we set on our policy a couple of months ago, right?
Right.
Is that
Right, and being the finance committee, I think that the appropriate place to ask that question.
So the majority of places that we recognized using the fund balance were in the special funds and not in the general fund. And so, for instance, with veterans assistance, that was coming out of the special fund. And I know that had been a request of some members to look at those special funds to see where those could be allocated for fund balance before using the general fund dollars. And so I think that's, I don't know if that accounts for all of the use for fund balance, but I know the majority of those that we looked at were for special funds.
And I guess I didn't pick up on that important nuance to it, so I guess the question still remains, do you have a ballpark figure, I mean, based on the budgeting that's presented, in the ideal world that every penny is spent is allocated here, do we know what kind of a cushion we'll end up with?
I could not tell you what the percentage would be. I can tell you that we would expect it to be the same or better. But also recognizing that those figures for our overall fund balance and the projections that we use for the budget policy come from our CAFR. And so that is a snapshot in time that we get at the end of the year, and so it fluctuates throughout the year. And so our fund balance increases and decreases every month within the year, depending on what the needs are within those funds.
We've had I've had this conversation before, but the budget is a static document in the way it's, of course, the way it's presented, so I just wondered if based on the way the budget has been put together, there's an idea of how it's crafted to meet that budgetary policy requirement.
Yes.
Thank you.
Very good. All right, Mr. Erickson, thank you.
Thank you. Well, I guess I would presume then that when we do the budget and we're looking at the fund balances, we are trying to follow the policy that we set forth in, I don't know what month that was, but sometime this year. So, I mean, we ought to be close, shouldn't we? Right. All right. That's all I got to say.
Thank you.
Yeah.
We're moving on to E1I. Losing check mark here.
Before we go on, I think the auditor wanted to make a comment on the last conversation.
Yes, please, if you don't mind.
No, not at all.
I was jumping up my chair back there.
I
Thank you,
didn't
Ms.
know
Taylor.
that's what you wanted, I apologize.
So kind of to piggyback off that conversation, part of the problem with giving, I mean, we can run any number of reports and tell you what fund they're hitting that line for pulling out fund balance. The problem is, like Ms. Taylor said, it's an ever-changing number. It changes every morning. Every time accounts payable issues a check, fund balance is changing. Every time we receive a payment. And so basically the way fund balance grows is at the end of the year, once we've made all the CAFR adjustments, if we bring in more revenue than we've had expenditures, we add to fund balance. So we won't know the additions to fund balance. I mean, I'll probably know them close in March or April. We won't be here with them until May or June. But that's kind of the problem with trying to make it, because it's going to increase before the unappropriated fund balance even actually gets used next year. So it's kind of an odd timing thing. So I just wanted to.
But it is about, thank you for that very much.
Well, and fund balance it's kind of tricky because people put a lot of value in fund balance, and there is value, but we can have 100 million in fund balance in the general fund, but if we don't have cash to write those checks, we can't write them. You know what I mean? So you have to take fund balance and give it value, but you also have to look at cash and you have to look at the overall financial health. You can't just look at fund balance and live and die based on that number, because it doesn't actually tell you everything you need to know about the financial health of the organization. And one more thing, I'm sorry, because Ms. McNeil mentioned the 20 million in MFT, those reports that I gave you when I presented are what we spent, not what highway took in on MFT.
Right.
So if they're stockpiling for a large project, I don't want you to think that they had a $16 million increase or the auditor didn't do it right. It's what they spent.
And there has, and Transportation Committee is very clear on.
Right, oh yeah,
on that.
absolutely.
So, in fact, I saw that Tuesday, I think, where how much is in there and what they're planning on spending where. And that's actually, we're seeing some of that in the budget, so very good clarification, so thank you, Ms. Anderson. So, we are here now, with E1I, and that is request approval for fiscal year 2021 recommended budget for general fund, county auditor department, and auditing financial management program. And that's pages 68 and 69. And a motion, Member Lehman, and a second by Member Erickson. Very good, thank you.
So the auditor, under Illinois statute, is an important position to ensure accountability to the people of the county. The county auditor is the only officer responsible for examining how all of the other departments are operating. So with the budget overview, again, this is just a slice of an overview, not to encompass all of the duties or responsibilities of any department. The overall budget increased 3%. The overall 94% of the budget is for salaries. 2% is for supplies and 4% is for services. So when our salary and our fringe benefits increase with merit increases and across the board increases, that budget will increase. And all of the other expense lines decreased to reflect historical trends.
Okay, any questions? I do have probably a question that I'm sure you can answer, and that is when we have Clifton Larson Allen. That is coming out of the general fund, correct?
It is, but it is coming out of Ms. Taylor's budget over in administration. What I am paying for out of auditing and accounting services is when we apply to GFOA for the CAFR and PAFR awards, I pay for that out of here.
So really, what all you're working towards is.
Cassie picks up the budget for it. They're nice like that.
Well.
I mean, on the given day.
Right.
Right. I say that in jest. I've received more communication from those two individuals in the last week than I did in 2 years that Ms. Rodriguez was here, so.
Well, and we appreciate all that, every time that a department head or a chair gets the audit report from you, knowing that we can go ahead and.
And a lot of that
go through
is,
those bills.
Connie Johnson in my office, has handled a lot. She's been with me 14 years. I call it the most long-term successful relationship I have that is not family bound to me by blood. She's been with me more than twice as long as my husband, so, Connie takes care of everything. She keeps all the departments, so I just wanted to. And last year, she took that over when I went to maternity leave. She took over handling the bills and hasn't quite passed that back yet. I'm not complaining.
Well, thank her for that.
I will.
And any additional questions? No, all right, very good. Then we need to vote, and all in favor of accepting the recommended budget for the auditor department and the auditing financial management program, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. Moving on to E1J, and that's request approval of fiscal year 2021 recommended budget for county clerk departments, including J1 general fund, elections program, records program, legal records documentation, J2 recorder document storage, legal records documentation program, J3 county clerk document storage fund, Records Program, and J4 GSI Fees Fund Legal Records Documentation Program. And can we have a motion for that? A motion by member Wolrab, a second by member Lehman. And Ms. Taylor.
Certainly. So the county clerk's office offers the following services, vital records, elections, property tax extensions, business services, and recording. I know many people probably think of county clerk as elections, but there is a lot going on down there. The overall budget, which includes elections, records, and legal records documentation, salaries would account for 53% of their budget, 11% for supplies, and 36% for services. In county clerk elections, the overall revenues increased 13%. That additional reimbursement from the state is due to 2 elections in 2022. And overall expenses increased 61% due to 2 elections. So 10% increase to election supplies such as voting by mail, envelopes, postcards, etc., based off of 2020 expenses. We also had an increase in advertising expense for required public notifications. 233% increase for election expense services due to minimum wage increase for the hourly workers that assist with elections, and the requirement of 2 additional curbside judges for the polling places. There was a significant increase to overtime line due to the elections and remapping the mandated mailings as well as mandated voting center. And there is a transfer from the American Rescue Plan budget of $1.2 million, and that is for the purchase of election equipment. In county clerk records, 001, 005, 0007, the overall revenue increased by 8%. The largest increase was an 86% increase related to raised marriage and civil union license fees. Overall expenses increased by 1%, 50% increase to postage, 100% decrease to contract services as the marriage record digitization project has finished, and decreases in expense lines to reflect projected amounts. County clerk legal records, the overall revenues increased 16%. Budgeted amounts reflect averages of 2019 and 2020 actual and 2021 projected revenues for the recording of fees, sale of revenue stamps, and data sales. Overall expenses increased 8%, and there wasn't a reduction in the majority of the expense lines, and the only ones of note were increases of $6,000 in overtime based on current amounts reflected activity in that program, 11% increase to postage, and a 20% increase in equipment rental, and that's related to mapping capabilities. For county clerk legal records, there's special fund 137, the budget increased 53%. The program has experienced increased revenues over the last couple of years. The budgeted amounts are the averages of 2019 and 20 actual and 21 projected. Expenses include $43,000 for phase 1 of a digitization project, and that will make digital records available to the public. When we were in our budget meeting and that was explained to us, it seemed like a very interesting project. And there's also an increase in non-contractual services related to the digitization. County clerk document storage, that special fund 164, the budget supports a half-time FTE county clerk, and there was minimal change to that budget. For the county clerk GIS fees, 167, 0005, 0008, there's a 7% increase to this budget. The GIS document fees increased 22% and 42% reduction in use of fund balance. The expenses include transfers to county information technologies and the assessor's office for GIS related services.
All right. Questions, comments, observations? My comment would be, I certainly hope that our elections are, fall within those budget numbers. No guarantees, obviously.
Certainly tried.
I know you did. And no reflection on you, I'm just saying that, you know, these are all,
Two big elections.
these are all, estimates.
Well, we are at the mercy of our legislature too, and the ever-changing rules and legislation, you never know what's gonna come up next, so we'll keep everybody posted on that.
Very good. Any additional comments or questions?
We raised the GIS fees, I just couldn't remember about.
I don't think they were raised, I think it was from, if I recall, can you go back to that?
The amount of people paying the fee increase.
I see.
Yeah, I think that's true of the records department too. It's the number of records that we're seeing, not the fee itself. Although, is that part of, I think, isn't there a fee study going on for that?
It's just gonna, to add that too, and we'll get with administration, kind of new to us is how you handle that. It's in progress now, the fee study. And obviously we could raise the marriage fees and be fair to the public as well as everyone else. So we'll let you know as soon as we find out from Bruce about that, and how we implement it from there will be interesting, because can we do it just like we did marriage and you all pass it, and then we implement that by give the public enough time and notification of that. And so we might see if they say we can and that we are much lower than all these others, and maybe we'll see some increase in our revenues from that or not. So we'll keep you posted.
All right, we need to vote on the county clerk budgets. Do I need to repeat all of those?
You could just say
Uh,
E1J.
1J through,
Chuck's.
let's see, E1J, 1, 2, 3, and 4.
Read them all. I did last night. I had to read everything.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion passes. Very good, thank you.
I didn't want you to feel left out.
I would not want to be left out, that's for sure.
Thank you so much, y'all, and for all the time and patience with us. We appreciate it.
Thank you very much for being here. We are now going to move to E1K, and that is request approval for financial year 2021 recommended budget for General Fund Animal Control Department, including K1 Animal Control Program and K2 Municipal Ward Program. And those are found on pages 82 through 86. And I need a motion, and we have a motion by member Lehman and a second by member Woolrad. And please proceed.
Thank you. The animal control budget overview just gives a brief description of all of the activities that are handled, I shouldn't say all, the major activities that are handled in the animal control center. So this program is designed to promote and protect public and animal safety in a variety of ways, including all of those bullet points listed. So 57% of the overall budget is for salaries, 10% for supplies, and 33% for services. The Animal Control Shelter Program, which is the first one in your budget, 0065, the overall revenues increased 5%. We have an 8% increase to animal registration fee revenue, and that was due to the increase that we had a few months ago through this committee to raise the dog and cat registration fees. For overall expenses, those also increased by 7%. And we have bullet pointed there that the increase to the clothing line will provide uniforms for employees. There was an increase in educational materials and some training videos so that we can conduct those trainings in-house. A $12,000 increase to non-major equipment to replace out the broken or worn out equipment. A thermal camera for animal capture for bats or other hard to capture animals, I suppose. And video intercom doorbell for staff safety out after hours when there may only be one person in the building. There's an increase to contract services for medical services for stray unclaimed animals and other rabies prevention portions of the program, as well as state mandated efforts. For the next program, the Animal Control Warden program, that is number 0066. The revenue increased 1%, including municipal contracts and animal reclamation fees. Expenses increased 2% due to miscellaneous expenses, including gasoline or the replacement of the equipment, as described in the previous slide. And we budgeted $30,000 in the county board fleet budget to purchase a animal control transit vehicle. They have been limping by with the vehicle for many years. And so we have included that in this year's budget.
Okay, comments, questions? Anything, any observations? Seeing none. We can vote. All in favor of approving E1K 1 and 2? Say aye.
Aye.
Opposition, same. Motion passes unanimously. Thank you very much. Thank you for what you do, as we have always said. Appreciate that facility on the south side of town.
Well, we appreciate you as a team effort, so thank you.
We are moving on to E1L. Request approval of fiscal year 2021 recommended budget, tort fund, tort judgment department, risk management, L1 and L2 risk management civil program, found on pages 87 and 88. And may I have a motion to put that on the floor? We have a motion by member Lehman and a second by member Erickson. And Ms. Taylor.
So the tort judgment fund, two different funds. The first one, 135,077,0077 is for the risk management in our insurance. There's a 20% increase to contractual expenses in that fund, and that is based on current year premiums, projected premiums, and claim history. The next, the risk management civil division, that provides for the state's attorney's office and our civil division staff. And that is a 1% decrease overall from the 2021 budget.
Any questions? Yes, member Laura.
Thank you. So that's a pretty eye-popping increase on the work comp area, percentage-wise anyway, but dollar-wise too, I guess. There was a time when we had a risk manager here where we would get reporting on our work comp claims, essentially not names of people, but information about what's going on that was the work comp. Unless I missed it somewhere, I don't think so. We haven't had that in quite a long time, and I'm just wondering about this. I'm wondering about this increase and whether, the committee would be interested in going back to maybe a quarterly or by twice a year, whatever it is, we report that. Right, that would be possible.
Yes, if that's the pleasure of the committee, we could go to those reports. I would have to look at historical records to find what type of reporting was conducted, but we could ask our risk management officer to complete those.
And could you speak just briefly to that 90% increase?
It's on page 87.
Page 87.
So we've seen some significant increases in workman's compensation, and so that 165 was our best estimate based on the 2021 actuals.
And our retention, did we change the retention to end up with that, or?
That was related to a death of an employee.
And then the liability, is that also, I think, had a pretty big increase on it?
Correct.
Is that related to the same?
I believe that was in part due to that, yes.
And I do see here, in one place we have worker compensation claims, but above there's under, on page 87, there's workmen's compensation. I wonder if we could make that gender neutral in the document.
Yes.
Okay.
That was 2002 places.
We would have to ask the auditor to change.
Yeah, she'd have to change it. So it's worker compensation for claims, but not for our.
The insurance piece is not gender.
I've circled it, we will address that.
So we saw a significant increase last year on our liability insurance, and that's pretty stable now. I mean, other than worker comp obviously isn't, but general liability, and it was, I think it fell in the it fell in the justice, it was for the sheriff's and correction officer.
Yeah, so part of that would be the reserves that are being held for pending litigation or pending claims against any suit that might be coming. And so a few months back, we had a closed session with Mr. Spanos, and he reviewed with you some cases that might be pending. And so some of those that have not been settled yet would have been budgeted in reserve in anticipation of closing those.
Did you get to try them?
Not yet.
Not yet?
We're not there yet.
Alright, that's always fun.
So at the bottom of page 87, the general liability there is an increase of 219%. Okay,
It's related to those claims.
it's not stable. It's all I was pointing out.
Right.
Yeah,
Unfortunately.
okay. Any additional questions? All right, moving on, we need to vote for that. All in favor of accepting the budget for the tort judgment, risk management program and risk management civil program, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. It passes unanimously. We are getting there, folks. Are we the longest? We are the longest, aren't we? For
Yes.
Every year I think that, I'm like,
I'm not
no,
done yet.
No, we
Yeah,
just,
we're not done yet.
we're not
just
done.
passed.
We just passed 2 hours.
Yeah, well, my husband said, how long you gonna be? And I'm like, a while, I don't know.
You didn't have to read each one though, just be happy. I had to read them each one.
She's reading each one in the beginning.
Right at the beginning, but not at the end, so. E1M, request approval of fiscal year 2021 recommended budget for our cooperative extension fund Cooperative Extension Department and Cooperative Extension Program, and that's on page 90. May I have a motion to put that on the floor? Member Erickson and second by Member Lehman. And
There we go. So similar to the museum, the budget for the extension service has a property tax revenue collection as its source of income, and the amount of the request this year is $350,000. And that expenditure would be the distribution and payment of that, those funds that were levied.
are there any questions? Yes.
So Mike, are you still the liaison? Can you explain why they're asking for $50,000 more?
They, we had, the levy was decreased by inadvertently last year. And it was about 75,000, I believe. And it wasn't what the board, which includes members of the extension, not service, but members, they have people that are identified by the extension service to be on the board, and then there are 3 from the county board that are also on it. And we agreed to an amount. It did not get put in correctly, and so the levy was less than what was agreed upon, and this basically brings that back, gives the extension service the amount that was not given last year. Now,
But this was considerably less than what they actually.
oh my goodness, they continue to ask for $400,000 and $500,000 levy. And the board members, the county board members have, and with the help of Ms. Dryer and Ms. Taylor, have been able to get documentation from the University of Illinois to find out and continue to look at the balance that they have on, what did we call that?
Their fund balance.
Their fund balance, total fund balance of 1.2 million. And we continue to tell them that we need to spend that down.
Okay.
And so, the levy maximum amount could be nearly 500,000. And so we continue to ask them to bring that down, and that's what is happening, is it is coming down. I think the compromise this year to have it go up slightly was because of the error, the inadvertent error that was made. And I think that was a compromise, in my opinion.
So they've been asked to use fund balance. Are they, it's not reflected here, are they somehow using it or?
Their fund balance and their checking.
Yes, their fund balance, which actually is unused taxpayer money.
So are they using that?
They are, and that's not always in the way that we would like to see it, but it is being used, and so probably I think they could use it a little quicker maybe, but it isn't, they are doing that, we'll leave it at that.
Are they justify, in your mind, are they justifying the need for this $350,000 from us?
what I can say,
Sorry for the tough question, but.
no, it's okay. We have this is ongoing, believe me. What has happened in the past is that their budget, whatever the levy is, they match the budget to that. And they had always done that, and then there was additional that then would go to a fund balance. The University of Illinois representative had indicated because of the volatility of the matching, whatever our county gives, the state is supposed to match that. And the state has in the past not always matched it. And so the representative from the university, I guess he's on the finance side, has recommended that they have a fund balance of 18 months of money available so they can continue to operate. And their budgets are nearly 500,000, aren't they? I think nearly 500,000. And the levy that we're giving them this year is 350. So that means that they should be taking out 200,000 out of their fund balance, plus then having a balance for this 18 months in case
So that
no money comes in.
their operating expense cushion, that I think ours is set for 4 months, something like that, right?
Exactly.
So why do they need 18 months?
We pushed back on that, and we were always told at the meetings that it was a requirement from the state of the University of Illinois. And come to find out, it is a recommendation. So we pushed back on that, and we continue to ask them to go to their fund balances when they wanted to have additional salaries, hire additional people. The programs don't appear to justify that. But we are not, as board members, we are not a part of their day-to-day budgeting and, not necessarily budgeting, but their expenses. And so we can only question and ask for justifications, which we do. And but there are 3 members from us and 3 members from them, and we have to come up with a compromise. So I think your questions are good. They're the same questions that we ask. And I think we are going to continue to ratchet this.
Well, I'll make a motion right now that we amend this to make it $325,000.
Their budget.
Yeah.
I would say our levy though is 300 and, we budgeted, or we levied 350,000. So my, so that's a motion.
That's a motion. Motion on the floor.
There's a motion on the floor. Is there a second to that? Not hearing a second, then the motion does not pass. But I will tell you that next year, next March, probably is when we do this, that will be raised. I think if it's, especially if it's in our meeting minutes, there was a motion that it didn't pass, but to move it to 325.
The motion to be made at full county board too. You can tell them that as well.
Okay. All right. And a good good. I think it's important that it becomes public. I will tell you that I have not a lot of people, but there are people who contact me frequently and ask why the county board is not giving them their full levy. And what I just told you is what I tell them. They've got to spend down the taxpayer money that's sitting in a fund.
If we can have, if our operation can work with 4 months of cushion, they don't need 18, then I have to ask why they need 18 months. I mean, I don't know what their magic number is, but 18 and 4 is very big
Seems
difference.
extreme.
So.
We pushed back on that. So it is a public meeting.
The extension meeting.
And we would be more than happy to let you know when that takes place. And you could certainly join us as not a member of the board, but as a citizen and express your concerns. That would be good, because that isn't generally what we get. I will tell you, it is a bit frustrating also, because Livingston County and Woodford County are also a piece of this extension. It's a conglomeration of 3 counties, and we seem to be the only county board that's questioning anything. But they consider a full maximum levy from both of those counties. It is not nearly as much as Mclean County. I mean, we are certainly the highest contributor to the revenue. So that is, appreciate the questions. And same questions that your fellow board members are asking.
Let me ask this question just for general information. So if we were to change this, and I mean, we have set a levy, I suppose, but I mean, we, all the time, I mean, the years I've been on the county board, we've set a budget, and then at the last second, that budget gets changed, bring this back, change it to, not the last second, but next to last second, change this budget and make it a 0, you've heard that many times, so I don't know why whatever we've done up to this point can't be amended now or at the floor of the county board.
Not sure.
It can be.
Okay.
Can it be amended at the?
Exact,
Exact,
we could potentially, I mean,
that's what I'm trying.
this is a little surprising to me, and I need to get my head around it. Believe me, I support it. It's not that, it's just I'm not sure how that works, so, at exact, it would be,
Because I'm not saying I don't support it, I gotta think about it a little bit, I just gotta.
So it would not go into exec, since it was not a failed action item as it is.
all right, so if we don't want to approve it tonight, let's figure out, let's get a strategy, I guess, is where I need to go.
I guess
Do we wanna have a strategy to make it 300, have another motion? Is that, I don't know, I'm just, yes.
I don't know.
Remember Layman?
I don't know if it's okay to put all my cards out on the table here, but before we vote on this one, I would really love an opportunity to dig in a little bit more and to learn a little bit more about the issue. So, parliamentarian or whomever, to offer an opportunity to do that, so we have a little bit more time to dig into this issue before making a full-on judgment if it goes to the next. What would be the best opportunity or way that we could do that?
This budget won't be.
I think that Ms. Dryer
So this budget technically does not go to executive and on to the full board until November. So you would have a chance to table it this month and vote on it again at the very first of November. As far as how you could change a levy or how you could change it, I don't know that part. I'm just telling you that
The levy would stay the same, correct? I mean, the levy's been sent in, correct?
Not yet.
Not yet. That's where I was going.
Well, we could maybe have a little bit longer stand-up meeting if we, than just a 5-second thing, if we need it.
I think that Ms. Dryer has all the details. I may still have papers that I'd have to go through, but the details as to their budget. And I think, please help me if I'm speaking out of turn, that that she could share with the members of this committee. Mr. Thompson is a part of that team. That's Member Solner, me, and Member Thompson. So he's aware of what's going on also. So,
And
please.
I think that we have given them a clear message that, they don't need as much as they are annually requesting. Because if you look at the historical levies, they have decreased significantly. And they know that we're watching them. I think this could be something that would be addressed in March for the 23 levy. Cause they have built their budgets based off the 350,000.
They don't have the same budget year as we do either.
Yeah.
Their budget year is July to July,
June to July.
June, July.
But they have a fund balance that they could use between January and March if they needed to.
They do.
But I think we've given them the message that we are not pleased and that they could get an even bigger reduction next year in 23.
It went from 500 to,
It did.
in the past, 4 years, it went from 500,000 to 350 now.
And the 350 is the catch up from the prior year.
Right, so it really should have been 325, I believe,
Right.
is what we said. And the only reason it's 350 is because we only did 300 the year
Right.
before.
So I think it could be addressed in March when we set the levy for the next year.
Are you, I'm sorry.
Please.
You're wanting to do it at 325, is that what I'm trying to?
I threw that number out there.
Yeah, I mean, I gotta think about it, I might support that, I don't know.
So you currently have a motion on the floor.
I just wanna know how we can
We
keep
have
it
a
alive
motion on the
to,
floor that, to approve, but we can certainly table it till
Next month.
next month. I don't
Let's
think,
table
to be honest, I think it's a little more than a stand-up. I really do, it is if we can put it on the agenda, I mean, it'll be on the agenda to approve, but I think having the detailed data so you all can see what their expenses were and
And I think if we start discussing in February at this committee, before our meeting with the extension in March, we would have more data and we could give you more information and we could have a
do you
thoughtful
think they'll give us
discussion.
the data by February?
We can try, I mean, we can get
Golly, it is
to what
like
they have.
pulling teeth,
You know,
it's,
if we were to reduce it for 2022, they have operating fund cushion. They have
They
an operating fund
definitely have
balance of
operating
18
funds.
months. So
so
the
I think,
reduction isn't 18 months, the reduction would be a small portion of
Yeah. and Ms.
smaller portion.
Woolrab is basically saying, so what, right? So what that
That's
we,
one way to say
that
that.
you didn't get your money,
Right.
please don't, that isn't, I mean,
Just
this
'cause
is
you-
all recorded,
Can-
so.
Do I need to make a motion to table it or someone?
Yeah.
I think we need to table it.
Yeah, that's gonna be your request, table it to a date, or reconsider on a date certain. And then.
And then
Yeah,
if
that's
Ms.
what I
Dryer can send the data to all members prior to our meeting, then we will have a discussion about.
Do I need to withdraw my motion then?
It didn't
Didn't get a
pass,
second.
so we didn't get a second, so I think the motion, then if somebody wants to make a motion to table,
I'll make a motion.
and I get a second with, so the table motion till date certain of next month.
Yes.
Second, member Lehman. All in favor? Aye. And passes unanimously. And then that moves us to item 2. I'm really sorry, we are trying to move this on, but this, I mean, I really do want to compliment this committee for asking very good questions, acknowledging things that are in the budget, so doing your work prior to coming here, it's very apparent and it's appreciated. And I do want to also say that I think the work that the administration did to provide pie charts on where, the percent of money and where it's being spent is also helpful to give you an overall understanding, so thank you. So, we are going to move to item E2A, McLean County bond rating. And,
That's an information
that's an
item.
information item, so we don't have to vote on anything.
No. I just would like to present some information that I think would be germane to the upcoming budget for the property committee, but also with plans that we have moving forward. So in the fiscal year 2022 recommended budget, we do have a recommendation that includes a bond issue for a tax exempt general obligation bond. That is through our Public Building Commission. We have a expiring debt service on this building, our government center. And so with this new issue, we would be keeping the tax rate stable on our property taxes, but it would allow us to plan for some necessary renovations and repairs, including the elevators. We've had multiple issues with our conveyances, and we need extensive renovations for several of those. In addition, it's anticipated that we would use this debt service to look to changes in the animal control shelter building. As you know, that building has been in need of some repairs, and then with the addition of the flooding that occurred over the summer, we feel that could be addressed through this issuance of this debt service. So the first page is just a memo outlining how we would do that, how we would manage it through our budget. The second page, 92 and 93, is a memo that we received from our financial advisors, and that is outlining the good financial shape that the county is in. This actually goes to a little bit, Member Woolrab, what you were requesting when we write our budget policy and we look at our fund balance. That is one criteria that this service uses, that Moody's uses, to look at our financial health of the county. And as you can see from this memo, we are in the second highest level for our investment grade. And so they consider that a very strong capacity to meet any debt obligations and very strong financial health. When we were speaking to our financial advisors, they told us that there are only 3 counties within the state of Illinois that have a higher rating. And so we should feel very proud of that and the accomplishments over the past several years by the county board to place us in that type of a category with our budget. The last 2 pages, 94 and 95, are a memorandum to Robert Porter from Chapman and Cutler that would outline the steps for approval of a bond sale, for a bond issue. And so this again is not an action item, this is just presented to you for your information. This does not lock us into anything at this stage. However, if we are to stay on course for anticipated approval, there are things that we need to do now in preparation, getting the materials together, speaking to our financial advisors, as well as Chapman and Cutler and the Public Building Commission. And so this would just outline what we are looking at this time.
Thank you for this information. Very helpful, and I just want to generally thank you for everything you've done here and all the work you put into the budgets. I know this is a tremendous project every single year, but being new to the process and for you and for you, Kathy, and put in a lot of work into this, so it's been very understandable and very nice. Thank you.
And I will agree with that and just tap on to the top of that. The years that I've been on the board, not a lot, but a number of years I've been on the board, I have found that the past couple years have been much easier and much more clear in my mind. And so I appreciate that. I think Ms. Dreyer has had a significant amount of influence on that, and again, very much like what Ms. Wooler said. Thank you.
And you get to evaluate us still, so we're still in the you evaluating us stage.
But we do have bills to pay, which is number 5, and according to Ms. Anderson, they all are certified and comply, and we have total amount. We have IMRF payments, a lot of big payments this month of $1,054,432.99. May I have a motion to approve? Member Lehman and Member Woolrock gives me a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? It's unanimous. Any other business or communication? Okay. Wow, 7 o'clock, but thank you. Thank you very much.
A lot of business attended.
Yes.
We did it